Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Cook. I am a registered dietitian and certified eating disorder dietitian. And I'm going to be leading today's webinar from Balance called Redefining Resolutions. And we're going to go into how we can let go of the diet mentality and say no to dieting, or have a more constructive view of dieting in the new year. Because we all know that dieting tends to be a very common New Year's resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentation today. So we have enough time for questions at the end. This is all information that's super exciting to me, so I get a little bit fired up about it. So forgive me if my enthusiasm is a little bit too much. But please ask questions towards the end. I'll try to leave time for that. And if nothing else, we're just going to get started right away because there's a lot of information to cover today. So, how many people have said these terms to themselves or have made these comments to themselves at the end of the year? You know, I'm going to make this next year my year. It's going to be my year. We've all been there. I've been there. You know, we think kind of this arbitrary date on the calendar is going to completely change our lives. And you know what? We're hopeful. You know, we're hopeful for like the best in, you know, our lives and stuff. So it makes sense that we kind of tie it to a new beginning, which is the end of the year. But when I was kind of thinking about these phrases and kind of these more cliche terms, if you will, about the new year and New Year's resolutions, I kind of, some of the rhetorical questions came up to me, and I'm going to share them with you. So, you know, diet starts January 1st. Well, we're going to talk a lot more about dieting for the record. But why do we have to wait for a specific date on the calendar for any sort of changes to be made? Why not just start them now? And again, we're going to talk more about dieting, plenty about dieting, but you know, why January 1st? This is my year. What if it's not your year? You know, what if 2020, who started 2020 thinking that this was going to be their year? I know I did. I certainly did. And in an ironic twist of fate, I found myself on New Year's Day absolutely sick as a dog with bronchitis in bed. And that was just, you know, foreshadowing for the whole year ahead of us. But what if it's not your year? What if it's a hard year? And putting a lot of pressure on the year ahead of you can sometimes result in, you know, poor expectations being met. New year, new me. This is such a good one. This is one we see on social media and the hashtag new year, new me. But my question for you is, what was wrong with the old you? Is there anything wrong with the old you? Maybe in your opinion there is, but you know, we're going to talk about that as well. This year, I'm actually going to follow through with my resolution. I haven't been able to in the past, but I'm going to do it this year. But why didn't it work last year? Why did the resolution, why were you not successful with it last year? Maybe there's a reason why you weren't able to be successful last year, and it's not necessarily your fault. And then I'm going to put all of 2020 in the past. I don't need to keep dwelling on it. And I get that 2020 has been a really hard year. It's been a super hard year for a lot of people. But I guess my rebuttal to that is, do we have to put it all in the past? Can we take some of the good moments, or can we learn from some of those difficult times? So just some kind of rhetorical questions to maybe jot down, to take with your therapist, or just to be thinking about if any of these have crossed your mind at any point. So New Year's resolutions. These are some common New Year's resolutions, and I think there's none of these are going to come as a shock to you. And I bolded lose weight, and that's the one that we're going to talk about the most today, and why maybe we need to rethink that goal, rethink that resolution. And before we get really into the nitty-gritty here, I also just want to say that there's nothing wrong with seeking self-improvement. There's nothing wrong with trying to make positive changes in your life. And I don't want anyone to feel shamed for that. There's also nothing wrong with not wanting to make any changes in your life. There's nothing wrong with, not wanting to improve yourself. And that's okay too. So before we go in, I just want to double check comments really quick. So I haven't moved at all. Oh dear. Okay. 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to restart sharing and see if that works. Thank you for your comments. Can someone tell me what they're seeing right now? That worked. Great. Thank you, Gina. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to focus on these common New Year's, or the losing weight focus of the New Year's resolutions. So again, there's no shame in wanting to make positive behavior changes for your life and trying to be your best self. And there's also no shame in not wanting to do that and that not being a priority. So 81% of New Year's resolutions, according to a study done by the University of Scranton, do not succeed after 2 years. Granted, I'm just going to throw this out there. This study was done in 1989. So we definitely need updated research and updated data. But again, if you or if anyone you know has set out a New Year's resolution, oftentimes they fail. The topic that you'll see on the Today Show and whatnot is by mid-February, most people who have set out to, their New Year's resolutions, they've not succeeded. And that can be a really demoralizing kind of statistic too. On the same or a similar note, 95% of diets or most will fail or most will regain that weight within 1 to 5 years. So if you're anything like me, you're going to wonder where this bold statistic came from, because if 95% of diets fail, then what the heck are we even doing here? Why does diet culture exist? So I did a little research and I'm going to share it with you. So in 1959, a doctor named Albert Stunkard set out to find a cure for obesity. He was dead set that this is going to kill people down the line. It's dangerous. So I'm going to find a cure. He was dead set on it. So he read through a bunch of research. He read through as much as he could find, and he found that often the research studies that kind of tried to find a cure for obesity didn't really have really high scientific standards. Their methodology was wonky. Their sample size was small. There was just inaccurate data being present. So there wasn't a whole lot of accurate statistics or accurate scientific data to support any of these claims that, dieting works. He only found 8 studies that really met scientific criteria. And of those 8 studies, he found that weight loss was rare. And what was actually more common was that people regained the weight. So Stunkard, of course, wanted to find, okay, I'm going to do it myself. So he got his friend Mavis McLaren Hume, and they did their own study. They decided that they were going to, again, find this cure to obesity. So they did their own study of 100 people, which again, I'll admit that's a small sample size, but we'll get to that. And they followed these participants for 2.5 years. And they were able to see who was able to maintain that lower body weight. Only 2 of the 100. So that is a 2% success rate at maintaining a lower weight after only 2.5 years. It's not doing much to help with our original statistic of 95%. So then we fast forward about 20 years, and the International Journal of Obesity verified that not a lot had changed in those 20 years when we're talking about diets and their sustainability. And again, this is the International Journal of Obesity. So an organization that's vested in, sharing the truth and sharing statistics about obesity. Now, we're also not going to, I could talk and do a whole different presentation on obesity and BMI and things of that nature, but that's not our topic today. So I'm going to put a pin in that and maybe we'll come back to it one day. In 1992, the International Institute of Health found that after completing a formal diet, 90 to 95% of the participants regained up to 2/3 of the lost weight within a year, and almost all the weight within 5 years. So again, not doing a whole lot for this cure to obesity, and that diets are working and diets are a way to kind of cure this obesity epidemic that we have, which again, that's a different webinar for a different day. Then finally, in 2015, so more recent data, we had a large scale study of 278,000 people, which that's a pretty hardy study right there. And this study found that after 5 years, 95 to 98% of the participants regained all of their lost weight. So that's where this 95% statistic comes from. We have about, let's see, 1960 was 60 years ago. We have about 60 years of data that supports diets don't work. So hopefully that's giving a little bit more context to what we're talking about today. And please excuse my sidekick here, Bugsy is my cat, and he's just joining us today because he also feels very passionately about this topic. So diets work, and then they don't. You can go on a diet. Any sort of diet is kind of targeted at one specific idea, basically calories in, calories out, and it will be successful. It will be successful in the beginning. However, it's not a long-term solution, and we're going to see why. So basically how our bodies work is we need calories. We need energy to support us at baseline. And we also, in order to lose weight, a person reduces the amount of energy or calories that they're taking in relative to the amount that is burned, or it will result in weight loss. So I work primarily with eating disorder and disordered eating clients. And oftentimes there's this misconception that they're not burning calories unless they're exercising and exercising a lot. When in reality, here's what's happening within our bodies. And this is a basic scientific fact that 60 to 70% of our energy intake, or the vast majority of our energy intake or energy use is in the form of resting metabolic rate. This is the amount of energy that your body needs to simply be alive, to pump your blood throughout your body, to inflate your lungs, to rebuild cells, to just be alive. This is the vast majority of your caloric intake. Activity, so again, this is more of the traditional, what you're thinking of. So this can be anywhere from going for a walk, training for a marathon. This can be anything from flipping the remote, using the clicker to turn the channel. It can be anything and everything, anything other than just kind of lying in a coma in a bed. Now, of course, there's going to be variation. So again, an Olympic athlete is probably going to be expending more of their energy intake is going to be going towards this activity factor. But again, for the general population, resting metabolic rate takes up the majority of our caloric intake each day. And then there's a small amount, so about 10% of our energy needs that come from processing, digesting, and absorbing food. So it actually takes energy to digest and absorb the food that we eat. Another interesting fact about dieting is that 60% of our body approximately is made up of water. So any sort of quick fix, lose 10 pounds in 2 days or lose 50, whatever kind of crazy diet claim that you might see on a magazine cover or in a commercial or something, chances are that's water weight that's being lost. Any sort of meaningful weight loss or gain is not going to be related to muscle or fat if it's in a very short period of time. Just that is scientifically not, it's not a quick thing to do. Therefore, metabolism in response to starvation When you're dieting, what it does is it triggers your brain to think that it's in this starvation mode. It's in a deprivation mode. So your body is hardwired to protect its set point weight, set point fat stores, set point muscle stores, set point, all of that. And so what it does is it slows down the metabolism in order to kind of protect it. And so when there's kind of all this buzz around, eat this food and it'll increase your metabolism, or this food slows your metabolism, when really dieting is what slows your metabolism, because your metabolism is trying to stay at a healthy range. So in turn, when you're in a starved state, or when you're dieting, your hunger hormones, again, as a protective mechanism, increase. So that ghrelin, if anyone knows about ghrelin and leptin and all of that, the hunger hormone ghrelin increases, again, as a way to signal, hey, you need to add more food into your life. And your hunger or your fullness hormones, leptin, decreases, because it's saying, you need more food, you need to make up for that deprivation state. So your hunger and fullness hormones are not as accurate. And again, your metabolism overall is going to be lowered. So in summary, your body is way more effective at maintaining homeostasis, at protecting its set point, than you are at controlling all of these things with your thoughts and behaviors. Because again, our bodies are complicated, but they're smart, and they're wanting to save us and protect us. Finally, we're not robots, not finally, but my kind of point on here, this is, we're not robots. I say this to my clients a lot, is that, thank goodness we are not robots. Diets are black and white. Even research studies are black and white, and they don't account for the fact that real life is colorful, or real life is that gray area in between. There are so many different variables to take into account when we're talking about how does this diet, or how does this lifestyle, or how does this whatever, translate into real life. We're not a research study. We're not in a bubble. We're human beings, and everyone's body has its own way of maintaining homeostasis. And that looks different for every person, both on the inside and on the outside. And we're going to talk a little bit more about body diversity and weight stigma in a couple of slides here. But again, diets don't work because it's a one size. It's trying to find that kind of conform everyone into this one size fits all cookie cutter, but we're not robots. We're not a one size fits all. And human beings, like I said, they're just really complicated. Robots are complicated too. I'm not an engineer or anything, and I feel like they're pretty complicated, I would assume, but human beings are just as complicated, if not more. And again, going back to that previous slide, our bodies are trying to keep protected, and it's trying to keep it safe, and trying to keep it in a place that is where it's going to function normally. And when we try to disrupt that, that's when crazy things happen. So how do you spot a diet? Hopefully by now I've convinced you that dieting might not be all it's cracked up to be. So obviously, diet, if the word diet is in the title of it, whatever it is that you're talking about, then it's probably a diet. But before we kind of go into that, I'm just going to touch base a little bit here on the diet industry in general. The diet industry is a $72 billion a year industry. And that's compared to like the peanuts that's basically contributed towards mental health and eating disorder research, awareness, things of that nature. So that's a lot of money. And in recent years, this idea that dieting doesn't work, and that diets are going to fail and stuff, that became much more of a present factor. And the diet industry caught wind of that, and people caught wind of that, and they said, all right, maybe I don't want to go on a diet. So they had to adapt, because $72 million is a lot of money to lose. So the diet industry did what it does. It morphed. It's kind of like this shapeshifter in a way. So it started to kind of rebrand itself. People don't want to go on a diet. They're more concerned about being healthy. They're more concerned about a lifestyle change. They're more concerned about wellness. And that's where we welcome the wellness industry, which is really just the diet industry in disguise. So if something uses a term like wellness, plan, or program, protocol, detox, cleanse, reset, chances are then that's kind of just secret diet in disguise. If the motive of this wellness plan, of this detox, of this whatever is for weight loss, then chances are it's a diet. If whatever you're talking about here depicts foods as good or bad, chances are those polarizing ways of thinking about food is a diet in disguise. We already live in such a world where there's such polarizing opinions about everything, just about everything. Do you like The Office? Yes, no. If you don't like it, then you're a bad person. You're a terrible person. If you do like it, you're the best person in the world. Which again, it's creating so much more polarization about something that is so, we just need it to keep us alive. So when we depict foods as good and bad, we'll kind of go into that a little bit more. It really just creates more of a, puts good foods on a pedestal and demonizes bad foods when, again, we're human. And if we really like cheese and that's our favorite food, but this diet says that it's bad, your quality of life is going to be impacted by not having your favorite food because it's labeled bad by this diet. If your diet or a plan or wellness approach causes significant anxiety and obsession with food and health, that's not normal, people. You know, food is meant to keep us alive. It's also meant to be enjoyable from time to time. It's also, you know, some days it's not enjoyable. Some days it's just mediocre. Some days it's just a turkey sandwich and that's okay. But if it's causing this anxiety, if your brain is thinking about food, thinking about health, if it becomes an obsession where, you know, 90% of your day is spent thinking about it, that's not normal. There's a lot of other cool things to think about too. So again, if the wellness plan or if the diet cleanse, whatever, eliminates certain foods, macronutrients, things like that. So it's not just labeling them, but it's eliminating them. That's also a huge red flag for this is actually a diet in disguise. Our body needs all macronutrients, all carbs, fat, protein, water, vitamins, minerals. It needs all of those things to function normally. This is a big one. If this promotes food rules rather than listening to your bodily cues. We're going to talk a little bit more about intuitive eating later, but a big part of rejecting diet mentality is going to be to really listen to your own bodily cues. And that takes time and that takes cues, or it takes practice. But promoting, you know, rules about cut this food in half or only order this on the side, or if you're here, order a kid's meal, or if you're doing this, like if it has these kind of rules to follow, then chances are it's a diet. It's a diet in disguise. And we'll learn, again, like I said, we're going to learn more about intuitive eating and why listening to your body is actually much more beneficial, because again, our bodies know us best. Our bodies are there to protect us. And the more we're able to listen to them, the more it's going to, you know, work with us, work together. If this plan, protocol, diet treats weight loss as a sign of self-actualization, and this is kind of in combination with the second one, it markets weight loss as a way to feel better about yourself, to feel more confident. If this is telling you that the only way to love yourself, if the only way to feel more confident, if the only way to be your best self is to lose weight, I got bad news for you. That is not the only way. There's so many other ways to reach your full potential. And if that sort of confidence, if this confidence and self-actualization is so conditional, then it's not really confidence. It's coming from, it's kind of the devil in disguise kind of thing. So if what it is that you're looking at or what it is that you're exploring, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, and if it smells like a duck, it's probably a duck. So really be kind of an active, ask questions about your diet or what it is that you're looking at. And chances are it's there to actually promote diet culture as a whole. But wait, my doctor told me to lose weight. Okay, so as we go into this one, I just want to preface this also by saying that not all doctors are bad. Most doctors are not bad. You know, people go into the healthcare profession, dietetics included, because they care for people. They want to work, they want to help people. They want to save people from, dying early. There's people go into the healthcare profession to help, including doctors. But the problem is that a lot of our training as healthcare professionals comes from a weight-centric place, as opposed to a weight-inclusive place. And we're going to learn more about this weight-inclusive versus weight-centric today too, about what does a weight-inclusive care look like. So basically it looks like accepting and respecting that bodies look different. Bodies are diverse. Bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and all of them can be functional at whatever size. Sometimes they're not, but they have the ability to be functioning. They have the ability to function normally. So it rejects pathologizing specific weights and bodies. So what that means is that it's not going to look at someone and say, you must struggle with this, and this based on your body size. It allows the client to be, or the patient to be, a very active participant in their care. If someone comes in and they're not interested in hearing a weight loss lecture, then not giving them the weight loss lecture. If they are interested in behavioral modifications, then talking about it to them. But it's really about, getting their consent about what they want the session to look like. And not using that kind of healthist approach, which we'll get into in a second. A weight-inclusive care also takes into account lifestyle, environmental factors, weight stigma, genetics. What are some of these things that might be contributing to this person's health other than the size of their body? And acknowledges that we have our own lived privileges and or lived experiences and privileges. Now, a weight-centric approach to care can reinforce that weight stigma or a thin ideal. A person who comes in might be prescribed or praised for using what would be considered eating disorder behaviors in a smaller body person if they're in a larger body. Weight-centric care can also pathologize individuals based on, again, their appearance, their weight, or their body type. Or assumptions will be made about their lifestyle. This person's in a large body, they must not be motivated. This person's in a larger body, they must be lazy. And it really just kind of reinforces this idea of healthism. So what healthism is it's a belief that health is a moral obligation. You are, as a human being, morally obligated to care about your health and to only want the best for your health. That might be, some people might fall into that category. Some people might really care about their health, but some people might not have the means to be able to do that. And that's okay. So basically, some other kind of points here too is that primary care physicians tend to spend less time with someone in a larger body because they tend to rate these encounters as a waste of time. And that is just heartbreaking, honestly. Not all primary care providers will do that, but there are statistics that show that that's something that is a common occurrence for people, for primary care physicians. So I'm going to give two examples of some weight discrimination or some ways that doctors might approach someone in a larger body and how it can be actually really detrimental to their health. So one example is of John. So John's in a larger body and he's experiencing some pretty severe joint pain. John goes to his doctor, and just a little bit more about him. He coaches his son's baseball team and is very active in squash, tennis, and racquetball at his local gym. With his friends. He eats the food that his wife prepares, which is typically plant-based and a lot of vegetables and whole grains. But John does have a family history of osteoarthritis. So John goes to his doctor, and his doctor says, oh, okay, joint pain, you're in a larger body, weight loss. Doesn't really inquire about some of these other things. When in reality, again, it's probably us, something genetic, and he's already taking into account these healthy behavior changes, and that's okay. So maybe asking a little bit more about things other than just his weight and not pathologizing about that. So Susan comes in for a physical, and it's been a while since she's been in for a physical because she's fearful of doctors. Because frequently she'll come in and they'll just prescribe weight loss regardless of what she's there for. In for a flu shot, lose weight. Here for a sore throat, lose weight. So it's been a while since she's come in for a physical. And the reason she comes in today is because she has been weighing herself compulsively and found that she's been able to lose a modest amount of weight. So the doctor praises her for this weight loss and tells her to keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. But in reality, because the doctor didn't ask how she's been able to lose this weight, she's limiting herself to about 800 calories a day. She's drinking excessive amounts of black coffee and diet soda and only getting about 5 hours of sleep so that she can go and have a several-hour workout before and after work. So a lot of behaviors that in someone in a smaller body, we would determine eating disorder behaviors. But since this person is in a larger body, it's encouraged. Keep doing what you're doing. So that kind of leads me into our next slide is weight stigma. What is the harm of weight stigma? What is weight stigma, and how can we kind of be more conscious and aware of it? So weight stigma refers to the negative weight related attitudes and beliefs and that manifest as stereotypes, rejection, prejudice, and discrimination towards individuals of higher weights. So some more statistics about weight stigma and why this is harmful. So weight stigma actually promotes poor health. And poor health can be defined as increased mortality, systemic inflammation, blood pressure, cortisol secretion, diabetes, and heart disease, regardless of the person's body size, by the way. And then higher allostolic load. I wanted to kind of touch base on allostolic load here because that was something that is not as commonly talked about, I think in wellness culture or just in general. Allostolic load is its a cumulative effect of chronic stressors. So weight stigma, race, poor socioeconomic status, stressful jobs, stressful life environment. And that's basically, it has all of these stressors affect multiple systems in the body. There's actually a study of 1,000 people that followed them for 10 years, and they found that basically weight stigma, being a recipient of weight stigma, is actually more harmful to your health than what you're eating. So we're going to kind of look at that now is this weight stigma that might occur can actually limit a lot of things. It can limit your career opportunities, your education, your personal life. So meaning if you're in a larger body and you're stigmatized for that, or if you're stigmatized for whatever reason, someone else might not get that, or you might be rejected of the scholarship or the school or the job or something in favor of someone in a more socially acceptable body size. Prevents individuals who have been stigmatized from receiving routine and preventative care. So cervical cancer, this is an example of this. Cervical cancer is actually very high in women in larger body sizes, not because of their body sizes, but because of the fact that they're avoidant of going to the doctor because they're constantly given that feedback of you need to lose weight, you need to change your body size, you need to go on a diet. So they don't go in for those preventative appointments that would kind of screen those things out. Or if they are, they're caught a lot later in the stages because of this kind of belief that anything that is a problem in this person's life is a result of their weight. Physicians are also the most frequent source of weight stigma in women. So if that's people on the streets, people that they work with, of the people that they interact with, the physicians are the most likely source of that weight stigma. So we're going to talk a little now environmental, external weight stigma. So basically, being in a larger body in this world, you're going to receive that weight stigma, unfortunately. People are going to comment, whether it's, again, from the doctor, from a from a boss, from a peer, from a loved one, that external weight stigma leads to internal weight stigma. So this is kind of how you view yourself, this negative belief about yourself because of what you're hearing on the outside. It becomes the story, it becomes the narrative in your brain, and it becomes the truth, and then it can kind of continue to wear you down. And that's regardless of size too, actually. So the more the person has a perceived negative self-worth or self-value, the more it can kind of impact what's next, their mental health. So decreased weight stigma can contribute to decreased psychological well-being. That means mood and anxiety disorders, disordered eating and substance abuse, and disordered eating and eating disorders, and then substance abuse. So I think this is really important here because more people who experience weight stigma are much more likely to binge eat. They're much more likely to ignore their hunger and fullness cues and result in weight gain. So I once had someone say, like, well, weight stigma, it needs to be there. We need to tell these people that what they're doing is unhealthy, because otherwise no one's gonna, they need to know. They need to know. We're doing our due diligence by telling them that they're fat. I'm sorry. I at the beginning forgot to acknowledge my own privilege, but I'll acknowledge my lived experience is someone in a straight size body. But if you're in a larger body, you don't need to be told by someone that you're in a larger body. Chances are So to be constantly told that what you're doing is harmful to your health, or being a person in a larger body is harmful to your health, that's only going to make it worse. That's only going to reinforce the weight stigma, and it's only going to make their this experience in life, they're going to be so much more turned off to any sort of like physical activity, or, eating in a moderate way, intuitive eating, what have you. So diet stigma or weight stigma only reinforces these beliefs in the world. Physical activity too, I just want to touch on that too. 60% of those who've experienced weight stigma are going to be more likely to be physically inactive than those who don't. And that also makes sense. If they're being physically active and they're out in the world, they're subject to people commenting on their body size, even though they're doing what it is to help themselves, or even though they're doing something that's helpful to their body, or going to the gym. Gyms are just completely drenched in diet culture. So why would someone who's experienced weight stigma want to spend time there? They're just subjecting themselves to more uncomfortable comments that they did not ask for. So I propose an anti-diet approach, and this is a lot harder than it probably sounds. So what is an anti-diet approach? Well, the first step is accepting your body weight. And I put an asterisk next to this because this is really hard. It is super hard for anyone, especially for someone who is in a body that the world does not deem acceptable. So you have accepting your body weight, and that doesn't mean that you have to love it. It doesn't even mean that you have to like it. It just means that you're accepting and you're respecting the body that you've been given. Again, doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to even love it. It just means that this is the body that kind of, accepting what it is that you have. And again, I think this is the biggest reason why diet culture exists, is because we have such a hard time accepting our bodies, regardless of size. We have a hard time with that. So this one, I put an asterisk next to it because it's really, really, really hard. Another step towards an anti-diet approach is to eat mindfully and to appetite. So this is basically intuitive eating. There's 10 principles of intuitive eating that I encourage you all to check out. But adopting this intuitive eating approach. Another one is going to be to find something that's fun and enjoyable and move your body in that way. If you hate running, don't run. If you hate biking, don't bike. If you like gardening, garden. If you like dancing, dance. Do what it is and move your body in a way that is enjoyable and fun. And then using your mind and body knowledge of nutrition. So becoming more in tune with what your body is telling you, and use that to help you kind of become more in tune with yourself. And then, of course, being a critical consumer of information of all things. And that includes this presentation, ask questions, be curious about the world around you, be curious about these things that sound too good to be true. And learn. Maybe it will require you to learn a little bit more about something that you've never learned anything about before. So if we're not dieting, if we're not setting that as a resolution, if we're not trying to lose weight in the new year, then what are we going to do? What do? Well, first and foremost, I want to congratulate you for making that choice. And I want to welcome you into the lovely world of no dieting. You're going to live your life. There's so much more to life than dieting and choosing weight loss or trying to find weight loss as a goal. So you're going to live your life. Practicing self-compassion. Maybe this year looks like practicing more self-compassion and acknowledging that we are, we're human, we're flawed, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that we're terrible people. It just means that we're flawed, and that's normal. Ask yourself, what am I looking for outside of weight loss? Am I looking for acceptance? Am I looking for, improved confidence? Am I looking to wear clothes that I like that look good on me? If that's the case, if kind of finding what's underneath this iceberg, what's underneath that first layer of, I want to lose weight. What is it? What's the purpose of losing weight? Is it to improve your health? Because there are ways to improve your health without losing weight. It might result in weight loss, but it's not a guarantee, and that's okay. Practicing more mindfulness. So again, this kind of goes into being more in tune with what your body is telling you, what your signals, you're kind of listening to what your body is telling you. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, focusing on the progress and not the failure, and then working towards ending the stigma. So I'm going to go back to these two, giving yourself permission to make mistakes and focusing on the progress, not the failures, and give kind of a quick little story. So when I was growing up, I played basketball, and I had the tendency to, anytime I would make a mistake, I would just like beat myself up. I would be on offense or something, and I would pass the ball and it would get stolen. And then oh gosh, I can't believe I did that. This is so stupid. And then I'd be back on defense and the team would score. Oh gosh, now they scored. Now, what the heck? So now I'm back on offense, and I get the ball and I shoot and I completely airball it. So I'm just, well, gosh, these 3 mistakes, what's wrong with me? And I would just build and build and build off of these mistakes. I couldn't let them go. I kept perseverating on them. And my coach, he would pull me aside and be like, Chelsea, you're building a snowman again. I think he meant snowball, but it always came out snowman. So, he would tell me, you're building this snowman. You're allowing these mistakes to kind of build and build and build, and it's causing you to make more mistakes. So if we give ourselves permission to make mistakes, because again, we're human, it can lead us to kind of focus on the progress that we're making and not on the failure. If you have a goal of eating mindfully at, all of your meals and snacks, and you don't, maybe you have one episode where you're like, oh, wow, I'm doing a lot of really unconscious eating right now. That's not super great. Well, if you were mindful at, 5 other meals that week, that's pretty great. That's progress. And we're looking for progress, not perfection. And then if anything kind of stands out to you here, and you're fired up in the way that I am, and you want to work towards ending the weight stigma, please, maybe that can be a resolution. Maybe that can be a goal for this year, is to be advocating for health at every size, intuitive eating, weight inclusion, whatever it takes. So these are my sources if anyone's interested. What balance provides and what you can look into with balance is we have tons of options. We have outpatient groups, we have one-on-one meal supports, meal coaching, individual nutrition counseling, and coaching So if maybe you fall into that category of, I don't know that I have a full-blown eating disorder, but I know I've been stuck in diet culture and doing a lot of this yo-yo dieting, and I'm tired of it. I want to end it, and I want to improve my health in a way that's not going to really backfire in the way that diets do. Give us a call. We want to help you. We want to help you. We want to see if we can set you up with something that's going to be allow you to make 2021 your best year yet. And if it's not, then we're going to help you adapt to that and be comfortable with that. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the questions now. Let me see. Okay, so I've been wary of is the wellness program that promotes loving your body and loving yourself by loving your health, nothing to do with weight, just health and confidence. Then they try to peddle a multi-level vitamin replacement plan, which is absolutely preying on weight loss and its metric of success. Sneaky, sneaky diet industry. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. I'm not sure if this is a specific question, but you're absolutely right. So many of these wellness programs talk about how, you know, we're not about dieting. We're not about weight loss. We're just about improving your health and being the best person that you can be. And then once you kind of dive in a little bit more, they talk more about like, well, here's how you're going to do it, is you're going to do it by having all of these vitamins and supplements and diet drinks, or yeah, it's crazy. It's sneaky. If I want to improve my health, what are some good alternatives instead of pursuing weight loss? Great question. So I think the question would be, what are ways to focus on improving health? I think that's going to be very determined based on the person. So it would be like looking at your current lifestyle and looking at your current lifestyle and thinking about what is it that you want to change and why do you want to change? So some people are going to be, maybe your lifestyle looks a lot like sedentary, and maybe you're like, I really want to start moving my body more. So maybe that could look like exploring different ways of moving your body that are going to be enjoyable. Maybe a lot of your intake is inconsistent throughout the day, and you would like to have more consistent intake to kind of regulate the hunger fullness cues and metabolism, and then kind of work towards that. It's really going to be dependent on what's happening in your life and what is it that you want to change and feel capable of changing. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Do you have any suggestions on how someone can accept their body weight? I feel stuck in this process. Love the snowball metaphor. I'll be using that with my students. Yeah, this is such a hard one. Honestly, I think a big part of weight acceptance and body respect is number one, educating yourself on kind of where diet culture and size society, like all of this fat phobia kind of comes from in the first place, and getting to know kind of the history of it. And then really it's going to be diving in and thinking about where does it come from within you. That might look like talking to a therapist. That might look like, you know, joining a group. It might look like kind of just journaling more and spending more time in that meditative state. It can look like a lot of different things. But again, I just want to super acknowledge that this is a really difficult thing to do. And oftentimes it takes the help of an outside person to kind of be asking those questions and things of that nature. So I hope that answers that question. I don't have a quick answer for it. And I wish I did, because that would be the key to a lot of these, a lot of diet culture, I think. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so I would love to know your thoughts on holding the title of registered dietitian with the implications of the word diet. Emma, this is a great question. I don't have a good answer for this one either. I think it just kind of goes back to the actual terminology of our I guess, I don't know, the idea that we are nutritionists, dietitians. I think a lot of people are actually using the term dietetic or registered dietitian nutritionist just because it sounds a little bit less diety. But I think that just kind of goes into the fact that this industry is, I don't know that it was founded on diet culture. I'd like to think that it wasn't, but I think it's just kind of the way that it is. And that's not a great answer. And I apologize, but no, that bothers me in case that was your underlying question. It bothers me that as an anti-diet dietitian, my title has diet in the title. Would you equate weight stigma with fat phobia? Yes. I know a lot of research study that creating a very interesting fat phobia. I know of a research, ooh, that's very interesting. I would love to know more about that, Margaret. But yeah, I would definitely, fat phobia, I think is kind of, the weight stigma is something that is more received, and fat phobia is kind of coming from maybe someone who is projecting weight stigma onto someone, but it's all in all kind of the same thing. I know, and I see that there's questions in the Q&A, but I'm not very good at, well, let's see. I'm going to stop sharing and see if that helps. Q&A, here we go. Okay. I was wondering if you will receive a replay afterwards. Thank you so much. I believe that this will be available on our website if you're interested. I have type 2 diabetes and required to cut down on some nutrients. Then how can I apply intuitive eating to this case? That again is a great question. I think intuitive eating can be an appropriate kind of approach to eating, even if you have a disease like type 2 diabetes. I think it takes some very fine tuning and finagling and a really gentle approach, but it's going to be very customized and very individualized. So that's not your question. And I just want to acknowledge that, but there is a way to practice intuitive eating, even if you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes. It looks a little bit different because there is a certain amount of carb counting and stuff that goes into diabetes, especially if you're insulin dependent. But the way we kind of approach it looks a little bit different. Some of these questions we've kind of already asked. What's my cute cat's name? His name is, his full name is Bugsy Be Cool Time, but we're just calling him Bugsy, and I apologize if he was distracting. That was a very important question. I'm happy I got to answer that. All right, some of these are RD2B. Do you have social media and where can I follow you? I don't, but Balance does, and you can follow them. And you can also look into our Redefining Wellness, which is our new wellness organization, or I'm sorry, our new coaching business opportunity that is primarily focused on helping people who, again, don't necessarily meet that strict criteria for eating disorder, but also are wanting to kind of improve their relationship and improve, break free from the diet mentality. And Margaret, you sent me the source. It's from, I think it's from Linda Bacon, but Fat Phobia Scale Revisited, a short form. Cool, I'm gonna look into that. All right. I apologize if I didn't get to your questions. If you want, you can shoot me. I will share with you my email in the chat here if you're interested in any answering or asking any questions. Again, you're also able to reach out to our admissions office, or I'm sorry, not office of admissions, our admissions department if you wanted to learn more about the groups that we offer, the counseling, the coaching that we offer as well. But I'm so happy that we were able to learn together today, and hopefully this was a meaningful webinar for you, and I wish you all the best in your 2021 endeavors.